right.
All right. So I think we're live. Let's go.
Let's,
Let's go.
let's do it. Let's do it.
Indeed, indeed. Peace and blessings, everyone. Welcome. Got a special guest today on the Akashic Living podcast. Got my man Ricardo Wilkins. He's got a new book out called Life's Biohack. It's the health secrets of redox signaling revealed. Ricardo, just a little background about him. He is a world traveler. I mean, my brother has been everywhere. We're just talking about him being in Ecuador. I know he's been to, well, I'll let him tell it. I know off the top of the head, Colombia and Namibia and every other place. But awesome brother, world traveler, entrepreneur, background and working for the EPA as well. So welcome to the show. Ricardo, welcome, my brother.
Andre, brother, man, blessings, man. Thank you for having me on the podcast and share a little bit about, I guess, my book, travel too. I love talking about travel.
Yes,
and with the listeners and viewers.
Indeed, bro. So let's jump into it, man. So you got the new book out. What inspired it? What inspired you to talk about redox? That's a different topic, something that I wasn't familiar with, but I gotta say the book is easy to read and very informative. So it got me up to speed. But what was your journey like in creating it?
Thank you for saying that, man. Yeah, it kind of, so if I can jump back, it started really quickly. It started 2018. That's when I was first, I would say, exposed, when I was working at the EPA, and it was a job I was really stuck in and uninspired. And the one thing I could control was my health. So I was always attuned to just staying on top of, just different things out there. And one day I just randomly heard a video with two doctors. They were talking about just health, and they mentioned this stuff called redox signaling and a supplement that represented it, redox supplementation. Okay. And it just kind of, it sounded like, something that could help reduce cellular aging, and just, it sounded like the fountain of youth for longevity, like I like to put it. And I didn't really grasp it because I didn't understand, I never heard of it before, but something intuitively told me to just look into it. And I did, and I did, for one, what I said about it did for cellular aging, and also because it was so unique, that got my ear, my mind, like, because there's so many different things out there, that are somewhat similar. So this sounded different. So I looked into it, started using it, and just kind of like went down the rabbit hole of learning not just about the product, but the area of science that it represented. Redox signaling, redox biology, that is vast and well researched, but it's not like, doesn't have a lot of public awareness, even a lot of medical professionals, because it still wasn't taught in medical school.
Okay.
So that's how, so 4 years I was just learning more and more about it. And maybe about 6-7 months ago, I was watching a documentary called Stink, which I touch on the book.
Yeah.
About just about toxins and how prevalent toxins are in household products, and how the the usage of those toxins correlates to increasing disease in in humans over the last few decades. So that just, I was just kind of like annoyed and frustrated. And I didn't hear anything I didn't hear before, but it was just something about that particular, that touched me in that particular documentary. And I said, you know what, I'm going to write a book about it. And what I've learned over the last few years, at the time I was just learning out of just pure curiosity and quench my thirst for learning. But I said, and to your point, which was the goal, I'm glad you said that, to put something together that was just short, digestible, and an easy read for just common people like myself, right? I wrote it as a common person that knows a lot about it. And there's other books out there, but written by health professionals that go into a lot of detail. Yeah, they go into a lot of detail that honestly most people probably aren't going to read. I don't have the time to read something like this thick. So yeah, that was my inspiration, just to bring more awareness to this field of health. And if that resonates, people can take that information and to replenish the supply of redox in their body to feel younger, feel strong, keep a sharp mind, and stay active.
That's dope. The thing that I like about your book is, to your point, you put it in layman's terms, right? It's high science. I'm sure we're talking about amino acids and cells and proteins and all these mitochondria. It's high science. It can be, but you put it in layman's terms where we all understand it from a practical day-to-day standpoint, right? And you also give
Right.
ways where, you know, you can actually improve the redox signaling in your body through certain activities. So thank you for
Hmm.
making it super simple, and then we can walk away with a
Yeah.
practice, because, you know, if you get too deep, some folks might get lost like me, right?
No, seriously though, exactly. Because, and I wanted, it was a fine balance,
Yeah.
because I wanted to be precise, and I wanted to really, like the most basic level, explain, because the product is unique, right? It's in the
Yeah.
book isn't about the product. I touch on it more in theory. I touch on
Hmm.
it, but because the product is made from saline, which
Okay.
is most people kind of, like, wait, well, how is something made from saline? And it's this stuff they never heard of before called
Correct.
redox.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
wanted to explain in detail how the body, like, that's what the body does, uses those building blocks.
Hmm.
So if it makes sense, that's what those are the building blocks the body uses. It makes sense that, through innovative technology, we can use the same building blocks to recreate what the body makes.
See, that's easy. That's easy to understand there, right? It's you can
Right.
kind of point A, point B, point C without having to go too deep. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Can you talk about some of the things that we can do on a day-to-day basis? And you hit on it earlier in terms of, like,
Hmm.
it seems like there's a macro issue, right? Where there's environmental toxins, right? And these
Yeah.
environmental toxins, whether it's coming strictly from the environment or it's household products that we're using. I know I
Hmm.
recently just kind of discovered this changing, going, using things from like Lysol and stuff, chemicals that were
Yeah.
polluting the home environment, right? And I picked up on it.
Yeah.
So I started using, some more essential oils and some natural products to help
Hmm.
clean with. But then I'm like, wait a minute, I'm doing all this, I'm taking all these vitamins and supplements, but I wasn't aware of the macro things that are kind of affecting my immune system and my, my health as well. So can you talk about what we can do on a day-to-day basis to help us, improve that redox signaling in our body so that we can have better foundational health, if you will?
Yeah. Thanks for asking that. And to if I can touch on what you just said about, like, those day-to-day things, as far as,
Hmm.
like, the stressors we're getting from toxins, and
Yeah.
it's so prevalent in our society and just everything around us.
Hmm.
You really can't escape it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's things that we can do to mitigate, that exposure in our household, like you said. Use essential oils, the products we purchase,
Hmm.
really vet the products we purchase, because this is, in doing my research for the book, something I didn't realize is that, the terms organic, natural,
Yeah.
green,
Hmm.
those terms aren't regulated. Anybody can put that language on their products,
Wow. I
or on
didn't
their
know that.
websites. Yeah, I didn't know that. I was like, oh wait. So that's one thing I would suggest people to do, just the products, and then just small little things that people can do. Plants in your house, open your
Yeah.
windows
Hmm.
5-10 minutes a day. Another thing I didn't think about that people do is take
Hmm.
your shoes off before you leave the house. But I always thought people, and I think most people do it not to track dirt, but it also tracks the chemicals that you pick up outside.
Absolutely.
So there's just a few things that people can do as far as just in the house to mitigate the exposure in their household. And as far as redox signaling, well, one, and I touch on this in the book. There's scientists learn that exercise. We know that exercise is really, really important, but it's the one thing that we can do as far as one of the few things we can do to boost the redox signaling through our body is
Mhm.
exercising. So it
Yes.
actually creates the stellar messengers, what is the catalyst for redox signaling
Hmm.
in the body, that pushes the buttons of health and longevity and healing. So
Okay.
exercise is one thing you do, and exercise can be just a brisk walk,
Okay.
for 15 minutes. I'm somebody that works out pretty rigorously, I would
Hmm.
say, but that could be overwhelming for a lot of people, I think, sometimes. So
Hmm.
just start out a 5-minute walk, just around your block. That's what my mother does. She tries to do that. So that's number one. uh, Good nutrition, while maybe not, can I would say, can support just cellular health, mitochondrial health.
Hmm.
There's a lot of just nutritional supplements that just support the functioning of our cells, and if our cells are healthy, they are where redox is comes from, I would say,
Hmm.
can support just healthier cells with that process. And then there's redox supplementation that is replenishing that deficiency directly in the body that is just really, really profound. So there's a few things, and those are just really simple things. There's also hyperbaric chambers and PMF machines, which I also touch on the book, that again might be more expensive, but they do support, those are more treatments.
Yes.
I would say, but those definitely are very beneficial in supporting mitochondrial and cellular health.
That's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. Always something that we can do, starting small, starting simple, and become aware of it. I love the idea, for me, taking off my shoes before I come in the house. That's critical. Like just from an energetic perspective, like I want to have a firm break between what's outside and the sacred space I've created in my house. You know what I mean? So just making sure I do that, man. That's cool.
I love the way I love that. Yeah, I never even thought about it that way. That is just that energy, just the energy that you're bringing in your home. I love how you put that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So redox is in general. What does this stand for again? I know it's a reactant or.
So it stands for it's a combination of reductants and oxidants.
Okay.
So redox. So and redox, redox essentially means redox is the transfer of, I don't want to get too science here. It's the transfer of electrons. So redox can that term can be used in machinery. It can be used in a lot of different things that involve a chemical process. Just for clarification for listeners and viewers, but to answer the question, in this term, it's the reductants and the oxidants produced in the body and are reactive oxygen, reactive nitrogen species.
Awesome. I know one of the things that, as I was reading your book, you talked about, the aging process, and you even mentioned glutathione. So my wife, she is a nurse aesthetics, right? So she deals like plastic surgery and vitamin IV therapy. Everybody wants some glutathione or to figure out a way to, to stay young. Can you talk about how that, is impacted by redox and what you're seeing?
Sure. Yeah, I've learned, man, Dre, I've learned so much about just the body the body is amazing. Like it's just absolutely amazing. And I didn't even heard of glutathione before until I started learning about redox. And glutathione is an antioxidant produced in the body, produced in the cells, and it helps with a lot of different things. But I would say at least my understanding, the two primary things is help reduce inflammation in the body and help detoxify the cells in a very deep way. And redox, essentially redox signaling, the effectiveness of glutathione in the body is correlated to the redox signaling efficiency in our body. It helps to produce in the usage of glutathione in our body. So if we're boosting the redox signaling in our body, we're improving the glutathione in our body. And for example, the redox supplementation has been scientifically shown to boost the efficacy of glutathione by 800%.
Wow.
So in glutathione, I mean, you see that everywhere. Like you said, people get treatments for it. So it's really, really helpful for the body.
Yeah. I've even heard people having glutathione parties. Like they'll have like glutathione IV. They'll tack up glutathione IVs and have like a glutathione party just for the, anti-aging process. So that's
it's powerful, man. It's powerful. It's a real popular I would say component of the body that's really gaining more awareness.
Yeah, the cool part about it is it's endogenous, right? We created ourselves. You don't have to, so if you improve the communication system within the body, you can actually probably produce more in an effective manner, right? So
exactly. And I'm glad you framed it that way, because that was something I was trying to you read the book, so you might know what I'm talking about. Like paint that picture of we're very, we know about cells in our tissues, and we have we know we have an immune system, but we have a little bit more awareness of nutrients and vitamin E. We know if we're sick, I need vitamin C or vitamin D.
Exactly.
Use herbs, help with this, help with that. But we're just, because we're not taught, there's certain things and mechanisms in our body that in some ways are actually more vital our begin before we even eat. I would say even begin before we introduce nutrients. So
Yeah.
I wanted to paint that picture. I believe it's in chapter 3. I kind of paint, like, I touch on nutrients a little bit.
Yep.
It's the distinction between nutrients and things that we ingest or take from the outside world, Mother Nature, that Mother Nature provided, versus these glutathione and redox signaling in our body cellular messengers and communication.
Yep. Indeed. Mother
Yeah.
Nature's amazing, man. There's like everything that
Oh
we
my
need is
God.
already here. It's just making sure that we have that right internal environment that we created, right? That we're in, as you talk about in the book, in the state of homeostasis, where we have the balance. And, going back to the conversation earlier, I remember it was talking about having the balance, but the environmental toxins, right? And I remember when I started doing acupuncture, I had a problem with my hip. And I used to go to a traditional Chinese medicine physician, and she would do acupuncture, but she would always remind me, she'd say, okay, so Andre, here's your meridians, right? And you got all this energy and toxins in there, right? That trapped up energy, and you want to release it. And she would do it with the acupuncture. But she always said, you have to try to, do the best, eat right, get proper rest, exercise. She said, but understand that there's just macro toxins in the environment that are going to, at times can stifle energy. And so that's when I started my Qigong practice. But to your point, there's ways that we can help encourage a more healthier internal environment, by having what's already there operate more efficiently, right? Through things like redox and stuff like that. So that's beautiful, man. Thank you for bringing that to my awareness. Because I tell you, when I read the title, I was like, okay, so redox, I had no clue, but you broke it down so plain and simple. I was like, oh, it just makes sense. It makes sense. You're already doing it.
And can I, from a I don't know, can I share something really quick?
Sure.
That's just related to the book, but just kind of to be, just advice, or to be aware of things that come in when things come into our life.
Yes.
Because a perfect example of that is, so I got this book. It's called How to Communicate.
Yeah.
And I got it maybe like a year and a half ago. And I was not, I'd start listening to it. It was audio, and it just didn't resonate with me. I started listening to it, and I was like, I'll listen to this later. And I forgot about it. Long story short, in the process of writing my book while I was in Ecuador, or finishing, it was actually written when I was changing it a million times. Two things. So I had to push my date back twice when I was going to launch. First, it was in November, then in December. And through that process, I was prompted to start listening to this audiobook again. And it gave me so many tips to better communicate, to better communicate so people can absorb what you're trying to express. And I literally changed my book maybe a week before, it was going to launch.
Yeah.
Because I was learning so many different things to make the book. And I bring this back to what you just said, just to help it make sense a little bit better, and just connect with the reader a little bit more. So just a little, things come in our life, and I realized this book wasn't for then, it was for now, to help me write a better book.
Come on now.
So yeah, that was just, really something that an experience that told me just to be more aware of as I move forward. And also when certain things go wrong, because when my launch dates had to be pushed back, I was really frustrated, but it was really for my benefit.
I love it, man. I love it.
Yeah, so I just wanted to share that, man. Yeah.
No, thank you for sharing it. Thank you for sharing that. There's a scripture in the Bible that comes up that many are the plans of a man's heart, but it's the Lord's purpose that prevails. And so, we can plan all we want, right? But oftentimes there's a divine appointed time for things to happen in our life, because maybe there's lessons or things that we have to experience, So for you, that audio book, which, if you don't mind sharing that out, I'll put that in the description and link, because that could be a blessing to someone else too, right? And just because the beauty of your book is the simplicity, right? The simplicity of how you can take a concept that, can once again can be very high science, but put it in a way where it's, digestible and actionable, right? So we can just take it from information to knowledge where we can actually, and wisdom, so we can be transformed by it. So thank you for
Yeah.
going through that process. I know there was some bumps in the road, but well worth it,
Right.
because
No,
the outcome is dope.
man, it's so, I mean, I'll be honest, man, I was so frustrated that I
Yeah,
had to push it back twice. And I was just like, because I was attached,
yeah.
my ego was attached to those dates, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, oh my gosh, if I didn't, wait, I would have, it was still the crux of it, was the meat of it was the same book.
Yeah.
But I added actually removed the chapter just
Wow.
because of, yeah. And the book was Expert Secrets by Russell Brunson.
Okay.
That was the book.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
It
great.
was mhm.
That's dope. That's dope. Let's talk about it. So we'll pivot a little bit in the conversation.
Sure.
You hit on just earlier about ego, how your ego was hit
Uh-huh.
when missing the deadlines or having to push deadlines back. You and I
Yeah.
met during, I guess, one of the times where we were both going through transformation and dealing with our ego front and center during
Yeah.
ayahuasca ceremonies.
Yes.
That in and
Yes.
of itself was, unbelievable moment. What's funny is, as I think about it, we were there, we were at, Rhythmia Life Advancement Center for what, 5 days or 7 days, and we
Yeah.
see each other in passing, and we would talk a little bit, but not that much. But
Right.
after the experience, we talk more now than we did when we first met. And so it's
Yeah.
amazing when we think about the progression and the journey that we, going through that healing process, and how you may not have as much communication with the person at that time. But I think what happens is that as you do the healing, it removes the obscurations, and it makes you allow you to be more open and have conversations and, feel connected to folks. So can you talk about, just share a little bit of your experience about, with plant medicine and your healing journey, which I would assume led you to or contributed to some point being able to be
Yeah.
very open and talk about, healing in general.
Yeah. I'll start with saying my book it's from a personal standpoint, is as much as a symbolizes my personal and spiritual development
Mm,
evolution. The idea that I even had the idea, then to take action to create the book, just for me exemplifies just like the transformation I've had. The person I was 2 years ago wouldn't even have thought it possible, and like just
mm,
even 2 years ago, 5 years ago. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
yeah, you know what I mean. So,
Hmm.
yeah, it's crazy. How that at Rhythmia that week was so, because there was so many of us there. You have like quick little moments with
Yeah.
people. You connect, but like you said, now we've connected a lot more afterwards, and it's
Fact.
just, yeah, yeah, it was a beautiful week. And I think part of that um is that was a really powerful week for myself and everyone that I've spoken to during and after. It was just a really powerful connecting experience. It's something that you share with those individuals
Hmm.
forever. You know what I mean? You know what that week represented, and that you develop a certain bond there, which is why
Absolutely.
I think after the fact you can still you hold that connection and continue, even if it was a limited connection that week. But yes, man, that my journey with plant medicine and ayahuasca there was just, I mean, I can go on for days and days, but I would just say that plant medicine has been tremendous and played a tremendous and vital role to just
Hmm.
just growing, learning, understanding myself, understanding people.
Hmm.
And it's a continuous journey, till probably till we die. There's always still things I'm still learning or implementing from what I've gathered from or garnered from those experiences.
Hmm.
But that week at Rhythmia was one of the most transformational, like maybe the most in my life. Um, with ayahuasca, it wasn't easy. You know,
Yeah.
I'll say that it was not easy. It was challenging at certain times, but extremely rewarding, and I'm grateful for the experience and the people I met, like you. When I was in Ecuador, I had another amazing experience with um, San Pedro,
Okay. Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that was different than the ayahuasca, but beautiful,
Hmm.
transformative. It'll be too long to get into here,
Hmm.
but and actually, what I learned was those two experiences were connected in a way. They were part of, it's kind of almost like this cyclical or cyclical, moments that were
Mm-hmm.
all part of the plan. What I got from Rhythmia.
Yeah.
Actually, then I had another experience a few months after Rhythmia with mushrooms, and then San Pedro, and they were all part of. Okay, I had to go through that one to get to that
Yep.
one to get to that one, and they were
Mm.
all, they were all related. They were
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
related. Yeah, it was beautiful, man. So
That's
I
good.
don't tell, I tell everybody, everyone's journey is different.
Correct.
Not that everybody should do plant medicine, but it's definitely a valuable tool towards growth and learning, and just learning more about yourself, letting go of things that might
Mm-hmm.
be holding you back from awakening your true self.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I loved the opportunity to go down to Rhythmia and sit in the ayahuasca ceremony. I realized just how sacred we are as beings, and sacred that
Mm,
time to be able to confront some of those subconscious areas of your life. How sacred that is, and one of the biggest
yeah.
takeaways that I got from it was, you know, I love the opportunity to go within, but now I had the chance to do it. I want other people who I know who are, dealing with the same thing. I'm like, bro, we don't have to wait 40 years to get this right.
Yeah,
Like the stuff
no,
that happened way
yeah,
ago, we can deal with that right now. They said it, what,
yeah,
30 years of therapy in 7 days? And you
yeah,
can actually
yeah.
feel it's not just a physical change. I mean, I literally lost 10 pounds while I was there from just like whether it was
Wow.
purging or going through, the cleansing and all that. But it's the
Yeah,
energetic lightness, the levity that we get from doing the inner work. And you become like a spokesperson, like you ain't gotta suffer no more. Like, like we can go
yeah.
ahead and have this. And I want it
Seriously.
for everybody. And specifically, I also want it for brothers. I want it for people of color who are
Yeah.
dealing with whether it's generational trauma or trauma that happened in their life, to say, hey,
Hmm.
you know what? We don't have to sit with this anymore. That's optional as we understand it now.
Yeah.
That's optional, that we can actually address the root pain of it and continue to
Hmm.
grow and unfold as a result of the work that we've done to, to just really sit with things that, maybe are kind of below this conscious level and difficult to deal with in just maybe a traditional meditation practice. Because I know I did therapy and I meditated and all that.
Hmm.
It wasn't until I got to Rhythmia where I had a chance, or excuse me, just plant medicine in general, to do that
Yeah.
deep in the work, man. And I want it for everybody. I wanted for everybody to
Oh
have it.
man.
And it was good to
Oh.
see you there, though. I got to say it because there's a component where, you go into a whole nother country. I went down there by
Hmm.
myself, and part of me, I want to see people that look like me and have that, that
Hmm.
connection. Oh, we didn't talk. It was almost like I was looking in the mirror at times, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
felt it
Yeah. It's like,
felt good to
okay.
have that
Okay. Yeah.
kinship.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it would just be like, because there were some mornings I was so chipped up from the Maloka and the experience. I was
Uh-huh.
just like, oh man. But when I saw you, I was like, it's good, bro.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Right.
just hold
Exactly.
your head, right?
Exactly.
And that's
Yeah.
what it felt like.
Exactly.
So I appreciate that.
Oh
I want to
man.
thank you for that, for being there, for
Yeah,
showing up.
bro. Yeah, man. You as well. You as well, man. It was. Yeah, it's definitely, it was good to see, like, okay, like you said, going there by ourselves, and who's going to be, just that, like, really the ego of mine,
Yeah.
like just wondering, and
Yep.
I was scared. I was scared. I was very nervous, I would say, going into it. And it's so funny. It's funny what you said when you said you just want everybody to experience it,
Yeah,
because
man.
it's like my first night, just for listeners and viewers. There's this particular retreat. There's like 4 nights of ceremony, and my first night was, it would be an understatement to say it was challenging,
Yeah, yeah.
and I was done. Like I was like, I'm out. I'm over this. I don't want to do this anymore. But I stuck with it. I stayed on the path, and by the end, so I called my partner after that first night, and I was like, yeah, I'm done. I don't know why I'm over this. I want to come home.
Yeah.
Right. So, so by the end of the week though, I'm like, oh my gosh, every single person I know needs to come here. It was just like, it was that. It was like, I want her. I just want everyone to
Yeah.
experience it, because it's just, for a word, it's just healing. It's
Yeah.
healing. And that could mean a lot of different things for a lot of people. Like, for example, it was one person who, you know, I stayed in touch with and got to meet during my travel, not to meet, but see again during my travels. She had a lot of pain and I can't even remember exactly why, but just from her father. I think her father passing. I'm not sure. And but that she just held on to. And it was just, we were talking, she lives in Atlanta, and we were talking, and she was just like, it's just gone. Like it's just gone.
Wow.
Like that thing that she felt for so many years was just gone because the medicine just helped her heal.
Yeah.
You know, I was quick story. I was in Ecuador. When I was in Ecuador, we did a tour in the Amazon, and we spent that's one of the things I love about it. You just spend all day with somebody from a different place, and he's showing he's showing us around, but we get to learn about him, which is just as rewarding. And we were just talking, and he somehow ayahuasca came up, and he said he did 2 ayahuasca experiences, and he connected with his dad on the second one, and how it was just so, it was some language barrier, but he just talked about how healing it was and helped them from the loss of his dad. And yeah, man, it's just so many ways. For a lot of people, for me, that's not what I got out of it. That's not what I particularly needed, but I got what was helped me on my journey. So yeah, man, it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Man. It's an awesome experience. I love it. You said you want everybody to have it. I had the same experience. And one night it was like hell. It was like I went to hell. But I said, you know what? I went through it and I realized it was something I had created, right? I had created, had me healed. And then I was like, well, if that's the case, then everybody need to come and do it and just push through it. And sit with it. So it was a beautiful experience, and I'll continue. It's something that I'll continue to do, to continue to heal and also continue to be an ambassador of it, because I think it's just, it may not be for everybody, right, to go through that whole process, but for those who are interested and willing to, it's a life changer. It's an absolute game changer. And I would love to have you back, man, just to talk about it, because I know there's other medicines that you've explored and ceremonies that you sat in, and just to get your perspective would be great, but want to be mindful of your time. And definitely,
I would love to, bro. I would love to.
Indeed, man. Indeed. We'll set it up so we could do it again. But Ricardo, thank you so much for your time. How can people get in contact with you, man? I know you're all over the world, a world traveler, and one day you were in, Ecuador and Colombia and Africa, all over. So how can people connect with you?
Sure, yeah, man. Probably the best way is social media. I am Facebook, Ricardo.Wilkins. I'm there. Instagram, I am Ricardo Wilkins. The 2 good places. And if you want to check out my book, it's on Amazon. Ricardo'sNewBook.com will take you there. And Dre, I appreciate you having me on, man. I love this conversation, man, about everything. And I'm grateful for the opportunity.
Absolutely. We'll put all your information in the video details and description. Ricardo, I love you, my brother. Thank you for stopping by. I appreciate you and hope to have you on again.
Much love, brother.
All right, take care.